Every morning when you wake up, a new day arrives. Each day brings something new. Some days bring the usual, other days bring the unexpected. But there's always one thing that can make your day special: your morning coffee.
It's just kind of part of my daily waking up routine. You know, alarm clock goes off, I go down, get a cup of coffee and sit in my bed and just kind of slowly wake up. It's just kind of like I don't know what I would call it other than just a routine.
For me, I will say it's almost probably more psychological. Just before I settle down and start getting to work, I like to just have a nice cup of coffee to sip on.
Actually, coffee was said in the Huffington Post article to be one of the ways to sharpen your focus. They claim that a steady low dose of coffee helps your focus go on and on. When we talk about concentration, we think learning. Another interviewee that we had the pleasure of talking to explains his story with coffee.
So I've drank coffee a very long time. So, you know, I went through graduate school, I went through law school, so I was like in the, 27th grade before I graduated. So to get through all that, you need some form of stimulant, right? You need something to keep you awake and alert. And so I always drank coffee, but, you know, again, as a way of staying alert.
For us, it's like a culture, you know, it's all like wine or like good beer or something like that, you know, there's like this whole world behind it. So, and that's what's most interesting, I think.
It's beyond art, if you ask me. From my humble 16 years of experience, it's beyond art.
Just the social aspect of it, really, and the art that comes in the making of that perfect cup.
I think the first time that I was ever aware of what coffee was is when I was about 7 or 8 years old. My father had taken us to Africa, and he had to acquire the coffee habit out of custom in the way that he interacted with people at the embassy and at dinner parties. And he'd never cared for coffee, particularly in the Navy. But at that point in his life, he had to learn to love coffee because everybody drank coffee socially and at work.
Yes, I would like espresso. Okay.
Americans consume 400 million cups of coffee per day, according to a Huffington Post article, equivalent to 146 cups of coffee per year, making the United States the leading consumer of coffee in the world. Coffee represents 75% of all the caffeine consumption in the United States. That's a lot of coffee, but what is the deal with the large amount? For specialists, it's not about quantity, but the quality of coffee. We've set out to various coffee shops across the United States to get a closer look at the production of coffee. We've interviewed several baristas to receive some of their insights on coffee and why they serve the drink as their job.
I like that it has a lot of creative liberties and there's a lot of room for growth and there's a lot to learn about coffee, you know, so.
From my first introduction to coffee, I was amazed, and from that point on, it's all coffee for me.
I was naive, arrogant, or whatever enough to do this shop. And as we opened, we were a multi-roaster. We sourced roasted coffee from other people. And then as we started doing it, it sort of felt like if I made you a good cup of coffee with somebody else's coffee, it was kind of a little bit like plagiarism. It's like, you know, I can make a good sentence with somebody else's words, but if I roast the coffee and I source the coffee and you like it, then I'm really doing something. And so that was that sort of transition point, and we're just sort of doing what we do and trying to basically create an experience that's similar in parity to what you might experience if you drank wine at a wine bar.
At the police department, it was a matter of if it was hot, if it was black, and it didn't eat a hole in the bottom of the cup, you were lucky.
Meeting a buddy and, you know, kind of talk about what happened during the course of your shift or whatever. Usually so it would slow down. When you're young, you're working the night shifts, and so 3, 4 in the morning, everybody's kind of coming together, and usually it's outside of in California of 7-Elevens. That was the only thing in my day that was open, so the guys would be standing there, hey, let me buy you a cup. And you're like, I really don't drink, but you get tired of saying that, so you're like, yeah, okay.
Coffee is only indigenous to Ethiopia, and it's basically spread through colonialism.
And about 1650 is when the coffee trade started to really manifest itself in a commercial way. It had been brought to Europe, you know, in the new colony expeditions of, you know, all sorts of, from Columbus to Drake to everybody. And they brought it from all around the world. That's another crazy thing. This coffee became a commercial commodity about 1650, and people started gathering in coffee houses.
There's a lot about coffee where people feel like, well, it has to be grown fairly, it has to be grown organically. There's a lot of social pressure put on coffee and what a coffee shop should be.
I care a lot about the quality of coffee, but it's really more, I care about the integrity and the character of the coffee. For instance, you know, fair trade. Well, why wouldn't it be fair trade? It damn sure better be if somebody's out there with their hard labor picking off the trees. This can't be the value added as a matter of corporate profit. The value added has to be in what it does for the, quite frankly, it begins with the environment. What does it do for the environment? Is it sustainable for the farmer to farm sustainable coffee? There's all kinds of ways to bring character and different qualities to coffee. It's by design. It's what the artisanship of the product is.
'Cause our ship has sailed away, 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 our ship has sailed away.
Who wants coffee?